Last night I had the strangest dream I've ever dreamed before. I dreamed the world had all agreed to put an end to war.
Well, the purpose of the Auckland Peace City Declaration is to make a statement of principles in terms of reaffirming Auckland and New Zealand as a nuclear weapon-free zone and as a city that upholds the principles of justice, human rights, and environmental well-being. So the event itself was to celebrate these principles, these ideals, and to cultivate a culture of peace within Auckland City through the performing arts and through featuring a number of stalls from the different justice and human rights, peace and disarmament organizations.
What an amazing day. The weather's awesome and couldn't ask for anything better. Really excited about Auckland becoming a peace city, all the opportunities that we'll have to implement great initiatives to really implement peace in our community.
It is indeed a privilege to be able to stand at this important engagement about people being in harmony, in unity, as one, and the rongo, the peace that we can transpire together, that we hold it here in Tamaki Makaurau.
On the 15th of December 2011, last year, we formally resolved that Auckland would be a peace city, made that declaration, and at the same time I was able to join 5,000 colleagues across the globe who are members of Mayors for Peace. And I think that's such a formidable statement for we here in Tamaki Makaurau to make, that we are committed as a city, and that I am committed as the leader of this city to the foundation, the hope and the aspiration that we'll have peace in our streets, in our homes, in our townships and in this city as we contribute to peace in our nation. I want to acknowledge on behalf of you all the declaration that Auckland on this day is most assuredly a peace city. Yeah.
The Auckland Peace City Declaration is a reflection of the United Nations Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, subscribed to by all nation-states and supported by people of all races, religions, social groupings, and political persuasions.
I think it's a fantastic initiative, and I hope that it actually triggers a lot of other city councils around New Zealand to also become cities of peace.
As I speak to you today, I share with you a message from children and young people I have spoken to. I am conveying the hopes and dreams of my generation to you, the adults, so that you can hear our voices. The world we live in is ours today, but my generation's to inherit. That is why I believe it is of utmost importance that we all recognise the fact that we are all moving towards peace together. I wish to express the happiness that I and other young people feel at the news that Auckland has become a peace city. The significance this has for the younger citizens of New Zealand is vast, because we as children now have a greater possibility of having our opinions heard amongst the wider community.
So what can an 11-year-old tell you about peace? Well, actually, kids know a lot about peace. What it feels like when we experience it and when we don't. So if Auckland's really going to be a peace city, you need to listen to kids and take us seriously. We can tell you what it feels like to get bullied and how important it is to stamp it out. We can tell you how frightened we get by drunks on the street and how you need to stop them buying alcohol so easily.
I'd really like to acknowledge the Peace Foundation and the way that they have kept the flame alive in New Zealand, and the huge number of people that supported the Peace Foundation and peace in Auckland. Tamaki Makora.
In many respects, we stand out as a shining beacon to the rest of the world with our nuclear-free legislation, and I'm sure all of us hope that our legislation will go out and envelop the rest of the world in the years to come.
I really feel we owe a debt of gratitude to those of you who are here today who fought so hard to achieve our nuclear-free status. It is something that I feel incredibly proud of as a New Zealander, and we should all be proud of. And I think there needs to be a campaign for there to be a nuclear-free New Zealand Day where we all take a day off work and do this every year. Because frankly, there is not enough people, even in this country, that realise the significance of the stance we took and realise the significance of the status we hold as a nuclear-free nation.
I guess I've felt really blessed because I've had the opportunity to be able to take our kaupapa of peace and nuclear abolition, our inspiration of the journey that we took, because it was quite a journey to move to agreeing to the idea that nuclear weapons are immoral and inhumane and are not appropriate for our security, when for many years they were part of our security framework of New Zealand. But we went through a shift in consciousness. We went through a rethinking of what peace means to us and how to achieve that. I understand why some countries still rely on these weapons of mass destruction, because we used to think that they were the saviours and the protectors of our security. I also realise how that's a false sense of security and how we can develop a new security, a common security, a human security, a security that is based on the values that we want to live by in our homes, in our communities and in the world.
And now it is a pleasure for us to recognise John with the Peacemaker Award. It's our privilege to give you the Peace Award.
Thank you so much on behalf of my father.
We had a concept called positive neutrality, and we promoted this from the early 80s onward, when we also promoted a nuclear-free zone for New Zealand. We wanted a nuclear-free peacemaking nation that would do more than simply have a zone, but be actively involved in international peacemaking. Peace and joy and love. Peace, shalom.
It is a time of celebration, not a time just for reminiscence, but a time, I think, to celebrate the courage, the commitment, the creativity, and the spontaneity of so many wonderful peace activists who helped to make this country nuclear-free.
It is a great privilege to be here to speak on behalf of National. It was in 1990 that the then National government finally joined Labour and embraced New Zealand's nuclear-free legislation. I was particularly glad, having been a foundation member of the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, a foundation formed in 1970 by the cardiologist to the President of the United States and a cardiologist to the President of the USSR at the height of the Cold War. I wanted today to acknowledge all those tens of thousands of New Zealanders who have worked so hard and been so committed to New Zealand's nuclear-free legislation.
Are we wide awake? Is the world aware? Radiation over Red Square, creeping on to cross Roman roads, a fear of freezing in the Soviet snow, one eye on the winter. Oh, there's just a hint of Soviet snow. We need something to keep the chill from freezing our own free will. It teasing at war like children. Love is the one solution. Seeing ourselves inside our enemies' need for shelter. Same winter wind that's blowing deep down inside. We know we've all got one eye on the winter.
President Obama has put forward the vision that we can have a nuclear weapons-free world. Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, has put forward a plan for a nuclear weapons-free world. It's a global treaty. And now the world is coming around to say we support the idea of a global treaty. And Auckland City has joined Mayors for Peace, along with 5,000 other mayors supporting a global treaty to ban nuclear weapons. So thank you, Auckland City.
New Zealand has positioned itself beautifully on the crossbenches of global politics. We sit there, obviously, with extraordinary traditions and history in the Western Alliance, but we also sit there been respected and regarded by those who don't come from the Western tradition, who are Eastern or otherwise, or African or whatever. They have seen that New Zealand, small nation that we may be, is prepared to stand up and be counted as an independent nation, proud of its own sovereignty, and being prepared to make a clear moral stance on a critical issue.
It's very good to have acknowledged here today that the nuclear threat is far from gone in the world, and we still need to continue to act to ensure that the rest of the world follows the lead that New Zealand took in being nuclear free.
Please welcome on stage Richard Northey.
The world is facing a proliferation of nuclear weapons that can be launched with a decreased lead time and a greater risk that this will happen. We face the risk of nuclear war starting from miscalculation, madness, misunderstandings, muddle and mechanical mishap.
Now, President Eisenhower warned in 1960 about the increasing power of what he called the military-industrial complex. Well, it's got so much more powerful since then that it now is in every corner of American life. There are bases everywhere. There are so-called defense industries everywhere making weapons. And all of these companies and corporations usually make contributions to both the political campaigns of both parties. So they get concessions from the politicians, and the politicians dare not speak against them, or they won't get donations and they won't get elected. So the entire American system, political system in a way, is corrupted by the military-industrial complex. And that is a huge problem, one of the huge problems we face today. How do you make the politicians honest?
Of course, we are a bit naive in a sense, because we are standing to confront 8 nations with more than 20,000 nuclear warheads, with a combined destructive capacity of 150,000 Hiroshima bombs. Then we have increasingly dangerous chemical and biological weapons. It's not just conflict we need to worry about, it's Murphy's Law of accidents.
The New Zealand example needs to be continued. It remains as relevant as it was then. I thank you for your support and your continued commitment to the hope and the promise of the 1987 Nuclear-Free New Zealand Act. Thank you very much.
One of the reasons I campaigned for nuclear-free New Zealand was so that we could have an independent foreign and defence policy, so that we would stand up in the world for things we believed in, and we wouldn't just simply follow our traditional allies. We would get out of defence agreements like ANZUS, and we would chart our own way. We would speak up for the little people in West Papua living under Indonesian military domination.
In the New Zealand harbours, the peace squadron of the 1970s and 80s is perhaps the most vivid and emblematic memory of the anti-nuclear campaign here. People got on boats and dinghies and surfboards. They took to the harbours of Lyttelton, of Wellington, of Auckland, and they confronted the nuclear ships that were visiting those harbours from Britain, from the United States. It began as Margaret Mead's small band of dedicated activists became a national movement and is now a matter of cultural identity. We are nuclear free.
The very first anti-nuclear demonstration in the world took place the day after the Hiroshima bomb in the philosophy department of Canterbury University, where in fact I studied. We go way back.
For a lot of young people in today's society,
The anti-nuclear movement in New Zealand is a history that we weren't a part of, and it's a history that a lot of young people don't really understand properly. We weren't there to see New Zealand stand up as a country to the rest of the world. And you know, when there's no nuclear testing in our waters, in our backyards anymore, it's quite easy to lose sight of the importance of nuclear non-proliferation and to have a strong anti-nuclear stance.
But of course, opposition to nuclear weapons is just but one aspect, one crucial component of peacemaking. The quest for justice, the reduction of violence, the eradication of forces that harm. Our agenda is as long as there are troubles. We can only be effective as we have people.
The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be last, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing.
But it's really worth remembering, and this is something I was reminded of by Nicky Hager when he gave a talk about the background to the Nuclear Free campaign, that those first harbour protests began in 1976, so a full 11 years before the legislation was secured. And it's very important that we remember that these sorts of struggles, these social movements, you must be there for the long haul. They involve endless dedication, a great deal of heart, and a lot of depression at times, and hopelessness, and one fights through the struggle to get the success. And so we have many lessons to learn, I think, from the Nuclear Free campaign.
Do you realise, as recently as 1995, we actually sent up 14 vessels to Mororoa, and all those people took huge risks, but they did that because they knew that unless they showed their commitment, we would not be able to end nuclear testing in the Pacific. It's an amazing, successful gesture. At that time, 98% of the New Zealand population opposed the French nuclear testing.
I'm proud to be here representing the Labour Party, and may I take the chance to honour three great Labour MPs. Norman Kirk, who took a warship up to Mororoa when there was testing by the French. The Right Honourable David Logie, who I don't need to explain why, and more recently, of course, the Right Honourable Helen Clark, who actually chaired the select committee for the legislation that we're celebrating today, and who, as we know, is now working in the UN, doing wonderful work, and still fighting for peace.
How do we become more inclusive? How do we honour the tangata whanua? How do we honour all the new migrants? How do we ensure that people who are suffering from any form of disability or poverty, etc., how can we be more supportive of the at-risk parts of our community, and how can the city, both the City Council and the people of Auckland, support that process?
This guy here, some of you might recognise this guy. Kissinger, Kissinger and Schultz, if you remember, during the time of our crisis with the United States, were ones who were saying how naive New Zealand was in being nuclear free, how nuclear weapons were vital for the security of the free world, and now they have come around, as have many other what we call the political realists. Well, I don't call them political realists, but the ones who are like saying that nuclear disarmament was not realistic are now saying, well, actually, it's our only course of action. We're no longer in a bipolar world where you can control the relations about nuclear weapons. We're in a multipolar world, and nuclear weapons create more security risks than any benefits they have, and we have the capacity to move towards the elimination.
everywhere we go with this torch, it inflames the passion of people for a nuclear weapons-free world. It's gone to the United Nations, to the UN Secretary General. It's gone to the Nobel Peace Laureates. It's gone to cities around the world. And to me, this is the sign, the vision, that we can indeed have a nuclear weapons-free world. The light that we light in our hearts, in our communities, is carried around the world. And this one actually started from Hiroshima, the peace flame in Hiroshima. So we're linked with them, with the people who have suffered from nuclear weapons, to create our vision for a nuclear weapons-free world, and I say we can create it. Yes, we can.
So we're neutral and nuclear-free. Flick the fear out of the family. We got natural friends and we're naturally neutral and neutral and nuclear-free. Flick the fear out of the family. We got natural friends and we're naturally neutral and nuclear-free. So we could be free. So no babies are being born. The child's a reason. It's the world we're stealing. Let the land see the sheep shorn. Let them be neutral and nuclear-free. Flick the fear out of the family. We're the natural friends who are naturally neutral and nuclear-free. God of nations at thy feet. Oh, we are neutral and nuclear-free. Flick the fear out of the family. We got natural friends and we're naturally.
So the question is New Zealand going to pick up the ball and put as much emphasis and enthusiasm behind building the momentum and global support and action for a treaty to ban nuclear weapons as we did to host the Rugby World Cup and win it? I think if we put that sort of energy into it, I think we can achieve it.
Hands up if you think that a nuclear weapons-free world is as important as winning the Rugby World Cup.
Peace is not just about ending war. It's not just about the big security issues. It starts in the home, it starts in the school, it starts in our community, and it's the same values, it's the same processes of conflict resolution, of understanding, of tolerance, of listening, of working out win-win solutions to our conflicts.
And I'm really interested in peace as being something that you have to subtract something in order for peace to come. You have to actually make room for peace. So often it's giving up the grudge or giving up the property, giving up the contest, that peace can then arise.
If you want the greatest joy, take a look inside. If you want the greatest love, take a look inside. If you want the greatest peace, take a look inside. If you want the greatest love, take a look inside. Afi aroha rangi marie. There's a couple of different kinds of peace that we can talk about, and the peace, there's one peace that I want to talk about, and that's the inner peace. Without the inner peace in your hearts, there is no peace. That is the true peace, the inner peace. And it's the inner peace that all the masters, Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, Ratana, Te Whiti and Tohu, they all came to talk about the inner peace and to try and inspire our people. If we can feel that inner peace within inside of us and feel that silence, feel that stillness within our beings, it's the thing that our families can feel, our communities can feel, our societies can feel, is that inner peace.
This is the Sri Chinmoy Meditation Centre, and we put on free Learn to Meditate courses throughout the community. And in the meditation courses we offer a range of techniques like visualization, breathing techniques, working on messages of peace as well, using that through song and music and some chanting or mantra. Meditation is a technique where if you're practicing it, then it's like a drop going into the ocean. So just like when one little drop goes into the ocean, it becomes one with the ocean. So with individuals meditating, then it's contributing to the larger cause of peace as well.
Has anyone seen the doves of Palestine flying above the ruins of Gaza, the temples of Haifa, the minarets of Damascus, the date palms of Basra? Has anyone seen the doves of peace flying home above the shores of Tamaki Makaurau to roost in the rooftops of Jerusalem? Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem.
A couple of years ago, SGI initiated an international survey of youth opinions and awareness of nuclear weapons. And you know what? Youth around the world, whether they be in nuclear armed countries or not, do not believe that nuclear weapons provide more security. They do not believe that nuclear weapons should be used under any circumstances, and they do not want nuclear weapons. And it's the same for the people everywhere.
This city can change to become a better place. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, it isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it.
I want to make a change in Auckland and instill peace in the dimension of our everyday lives. Auckland will become safe through peer mediation, and one day my children will live in this environment which would be peaceful. Like a rainbow, our different ethnic backgrounds culminate in fulfilling the aspiration of having a peaceful environment in this beautiful city.
We are starting something great for Auckland. Becoming a peace city gives us something to aim for, to aspire to, and to continue working towards. We're also joining other cities throughout the world, such as Nagasaki, New York, Hiroshima, Jerusalem, and Assisi.
But now that we're a peace city, actions speak louder than words. So we kids want to know what you grown-ups are going to do to make Auckland a more peaceful city for kids. It's up to you to be tough on bullying. It's up to you to be tough on drunks. It's up to you to be tough on domestic violence. It's up to you to make every kid in Auckland feel safe. Because that's when Auckland really will become a peace city.
Now it's your business, whatever you want to do, but if it don't work out, here's what you ought to do now. Just hold on, change is coming, hold on, don't worry about a thing, hold on, you can make it, hold on, everything will be alright, la la la.
The Council has a Peace City Toolkit, which was produced by the Auckland Peace City Committee, which gives a whole range of suitable projects for local community groups, such as Pahurakawa tree for peace planting and plaque laying ceremonies, which honor the peace workers in our communities.
I'm here as one of the mayors of peace and a man who put together a city out in the west that was a peace city with a peace bell. But more importantly, the mayor of Auckland, of the super city, saw and had a belief in what we were doing. And so now this city, the largest city in New Zealand, Auckland, is a peace city. And that's a triumph for all of those who worked before, now and in the future.
Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has."
Last night I had the strangest dream I've ever dreamed before. I dreamed the world had all agreed to put an end to war. I dreamed I saw a mighty room. The room was filled with men, and the paper they were signing said they'd never fight again.
Very easy words. Peace. Peace will come. Let it begin with me. We need peace. Let it begin with me. Oh, my own life is all I can hope to control. Oh, let my life be lived for the good of my soul. Let it bring peace, sweet peace. Peace will come. Let it begin with me.